In this episode of NRL Fantasy School, we're going to start looking at how you can assess some forward players. And the first one we're going to be looking at today is Trey Mooney. Okay. Now, if you don't know, sorry, we're going to use NRL Fantasy Pro for all of this, of course. We've got the absolute best tools and resources for doing this kind of stuff. Totally up to you if you want to use our platform. There are other stat sites around. You won't find the same depth of tools, but we're still going to give you an idea of the process of how you go about things. Okay. If you don't know a lot about Trey Mooney, you can have a look at his player profile page on our site. And we've got his height, weight, basic information, age. He's only turning 24, so he's just starting to come into his prime as a middle forward. Um, Players like Payne Haas that come up much younger than that are absolute freaks and not the norm. Trey's following more of a normal path. We've got his pathways information here. You can have a deeper look at his pathways if you like in our pathways page. So you can go through his Howard Matthews, SG Ball. Okay. We're not too interested in that. So what we're going to jump to is our preseason scouting report because this has some good information for us. So if we have a look at the scouting report for the Knights, we've got their 2026 gains, 2026 losses. So their losses, the significant loss that they've had in the forwards has been Leo Thompson, and Trey Mooney's been very much brought in to fill that role. It's noted in our opportunity section in our scouting report. If you read through that, okay. But what we're really looking at role wise for Trey Mooney is a either starting lock or starting prop role. So what we're going to do, so you can either do, I use Excel a lot. You can use just pad and paper if you like, but let's just start taking some notes as we go. So the first thing we need to focus on what his role is going to be. So his role is going to be either front row or lock. He's not going to be starting off the bench. He really is going to be coming in and filling the void left behind by Leo Thompson. Okay. Now we're going to start having a look at a few things we're interested in. What's his motor? Expected game time and expected PPM. Now, if you don't know what PPM is, it stands for points per minute. So on average, how many fantasy points does he generally score for each minute that he plays? Okay. So first thing I'm going to take a look at is a little bit of his New South Wales Cup history. So going to go to our game log page. I'm going to flick this over to reserve grade and let's take a look at Trey Mooney. Okay, so we can see that he's got back row games, bench games, all the way back to 21, 22. Okay. The recency is more important to me, so I'm just going to hone in on 24 and 25 and see really where he's been at the last 2 years. And all I'm really interested in at the moment are sort of front row and lock. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, so we've got 27 games here in our sample. As for his motor, well, look, he's been playing middle roles, anything 60 to 80 minutes. So yeah, 80-minute games as a front row forward. He's definitely got the motor. And we can see here his PPM in that time, 0.92. He's been a hell of a try scorer. So he's actually got a try scoring strike rate as a middle forward in the last 2 years in reserve grade of 41%, which is massive. Let's have a look. Some other things I'm interested in. Tackle breaks at 3.67. That's pretty fair. Offloads close to two a game. That's also pretty fair. Okay. Bit of try scoring noise in there. One thing we have that nobody else has in their stats is ATV, which is approximate try value. In our NRL stats, it's a lot closer to actual try value, but we approximate in reserve grade. So his PPM without any goal kicking, which he doesn't do anyway, or try points, comes out at 0.81. Now, when you go up to NRL for forwards, there is a little bit of a bump in that because the game speed is faster and they tend to be busier. So straight off the bat, I'd be expecting a trialist PPM of around kind of like 0.9-ish, maybe a bit higher. Okay. Now we've got a bit of a few ideas from there. Let's switch over to his actual NRL history so far. And we can see here most of his roles have been interchanged with a few lock and front row starts. Okay. What I'm more interested PPM 1.03, which isn't surprising me too much given what we've looked at with his New South Wales Cup. Try scoring a little bit, it's nowhere near as high. We'd expect that. He's only had two tries so far in NRL. Um, what we're going to do now, though, is have a look at his larger minute games. So we're not so interested in these 10-minute, 25-minute, 21-minute games. Let's see what he actually does with game time. So we can set this minutes minimum however we want. If we set it at 40, we're only going to get a 3 game sample. So let's just dial that back just a little bit. Let's go to 35. So what can we see from this? Now we've got a sample of 10 games where he's played 35 minutes or more. His PPM is still over 1. So he's holding his PPM with more game time. If we have a look at his larger games in there, we've got a 55 to 73 points. That included a try save, try assist, 6 tackle breaks, an offload. Okay. We've got a 44 for 64. Okay, we have no worries at all about this guy's ability to keep producing points as he's got more minutes. And PPM there of 1.03. Okay, we can let's pretty safely put this guy down as having a one point per minute PPM. We could probably even go to 1.05, and that still to me looks pretty conservative. Expected minutes. Okay, he's going to be he's really being bought by the Knights as a primary forward. At the Raiders, he's been stuck behind the likes of Corey Horsburgh. So, yeah, he has moved for bigger opportunity. So let's get a bit of an idea on two fronts. We have a really handy page called Forwards Minutes, which I'm going to go over to. And I'm going to have a look at the Knights in 2025 and Leo Thompson. So Leo Thompson was averaging 55 minutes a game. And we know that Trey Mooney's got the motor for that. And we know that he's been brought in for that role. So what I'm going to do is put him down as 55. So motor was a massive check. Okay. And now to work out his score expectation, all we do is multiply these. So 55 minutes by 1.05 points per minute. Need to put an equals in that, sorry. It gives us something in the vicinity of 58 points a game. Okay. The next thing we're interested in is what's he priced at? Okay. So his actual price in fantasy, Trey Mooney, 450k. He's probably being priced at his last year average of 46.5. But I'm going to show you how to check anyway. So if you haven't yet watched, our episode 2, which covered player pricing, it's not an episode you want to dismiss. There's stuff in there that the top fantasy players know and use. So you really want to actually get your head around that. But what we need is the start of season dollar per point figure. Now, our system, our platform already has all this worked out, so it's pretty easy to find it. What we're going to do is go to the analytics page. You may as well pull up Trey Mooney. Okay. Now, if we have a look at value down the bottom of any of these columns, this value is currently being determined by the average for that column and the current dollar per point figure. So to find the current dollar per point figure at any time at all during the season, you can just simply go to any of our analytics pages and take this value here, so 591945, and divide that by the average in that column, which was 46.5, and you're going to get a 12,730. So I'm just going to make a note of this up here for later as well. So our dollar per point figure starting the season 12,730. So if we take 450,000, which is his starting price, and divide by that starting dollar per point figure, we're getting 35.3. Oh, don't be dyslexic, Adrian. So he's currently priced at 35.3 points. So he's actually being priced less than what his average last year was. Now, if we have a look at we're already on his analytics page. So let's take a look. 2025, he only played 4 games for 46.5 points. So with his only playing 4 games, we're lucky they've actually given him a discount. So the value upside in Trey Mooney is in absolute must-have country. So 23 points and could become even larger than that. So we can go ahead, not only can we go ahead and confidently buy Trey Mooney, we can look at Trey Mooney and know he is an absolute must-have player. He's the second player, probably the second player that you should pick after picking your captain. Next, we're going to take a look at somebody very, very different. Let's take a look at Curtis Morin. So Curtis Morin has left the Bulldogs, gone over to the Titans. is currently being jumped on by about 2% of fantasy players. Are they onto something that we're missing, or are they barking up the wrong tree? Okay, so let's go back to our scouting report for a moment. Now, there's different ways that you can go about getting this information, but what our platform aims to do is be an absolute, as much as possible, one-stop resource shop for you. So we do an awful lot of work in a lot of our pages that's ready there to be used by you straight at your fingertips. So having a look at the Titans' gains and losses. Yep, they've picked up Curtis Moran from the Bulldogs. In the losses, Jacob Alakwanke, Regan Campbell-Gillard's moved on to the Titans. Isaac Fasua Malawi's moved on to the Dragons. David Fafita's out of the picture. Well, you can see they're starting to lose a lot of forwards here. Um, Josiah Paulu, another one of their fringe forwards, is gone. And add to that, they've now lost Jamin Jolliffe for the season with an ACL injury. Okay, so there's a fair bit of opportunity in there in the forwards. Curtis Moran's mentioned here. Curtis Moran, Brock Ray, and Tui Simpkins again have opportunity for more playing time with the departures of. Okay, so we've noticed there that there's opportunity there. Now, what we need to do is start having a look at what that real opportunity actually is. Okay, so role question mark at the moment. Well, we know what it's going to be. Interchange forward. Okay, motor, expected minutes, expected PPM. Let's start taking a look at that. So Curtis Moran, he's been playing a fair bit of NRL, so he might not need to. I don't think we need to go to New South Wales Cup at the moment. Going back to his, going to go to his analytics page. So the difference between our analytics page and our game log page, our game log is every game by game, and our analytics page summarizes those games. So let's just have a look at 25 and 24 and see what we get. So 30 interchange games, PPM of 0.9, average minutes of 25.4, average of 22.8, which would value him at about 290k. Okay, so we've got a fair bit of depth to sample there. What's he priced at? Let's have a look. Priced at 22.1, 250k. Okay, and average 22.1 last year, not priced at. So let's actually test that. 250. Remember that's in thousands. So again, we're going to take that 250. So it's going to come out to about 19 from top of my head. And we're going to divide that by 12,730. We get 19.6. Okay. Now, for to have decent value, we need him to be scoring 30 plus. That would give us 10 points of clear value. Yeah. So he's going to be needing to be playing more minutes than what he's been playing at the Bulldogs. So let's have a look at his game log. And let's have a look at what he's doing when he's getting 35 minutes. So games over 35 minutes, he's averaged 40 minutes for 32.3 at a ppm of 0.81. Okay, we've got 2 tries in that sample, and his trial is ppm 0.71. Okay, so I'm going to be a little bit generous. I'm going to bump that up to, let's call that 0.75. So we're going to take that down a little bit. Okay. So expected minutes. Well, at the moment, let's just have a look at needed minutes. So if we need him to score 30 points at a ppm of 0.75, what is 30 points divided by 0.75 points per minute? 40. We need him playing 40 minutes a game. Okay. Now, unlike Trey Mooney, we know he's going to get a primary role. So other players' minutes don't matter so much. Curtis Moran, we're looking at a bench role here. So other players' minutes matter hugely. Now, we've got 6 forwards by 80 minutes a game. Okay, that gives us 6 8 to 48, so 480 minutes. Now, you don't need to be taking a note of this. I'm just doing it because, it's a learning video, and this is something that numbers that you need to get into your head. Okay, so we've got hooker, 2 front rowers, 2 back rowers, lock, 4 bench spots. Okay, now there's 6 starting forwards, of course, and 80 minutes per slot. So that comes to 480 forward minutes available. Okay, let's start working out what this is going to look like. So we've got Verrills, we've got Mo. We probably would have had Jamin Jolliffe in there somewhere, but he's out. Let's just have a look at scouting report for the Titans. Now you will see there's an opportunity section. Curtis Moran comes into that opportunity section. So at the moment we're evaluating just what that is. In their injury list, Jamin Jolliffe ACL out till 2027. We can see they've lost a few forwards, hence there's opportunity there for some other forwards. Let's come over to what I'm going to do now is come over to their forward minutes. Actually, just go back to their depth chart for a second. Let's work out, have a look at who's actually going to be on the bench. Um, so the other front rower, yeah, okay, that's going to be Tino. At the moment, Chris Randall's going to be lock, and that's the word coming out of Titans camp. Their edges, we have one question mark and one certain. Actually, the question mark isn't so much of a question mark. It's pretty much now established that Paxton's going to be taking that. And what's our bench going to look like? Well, at the moment, it's looking something like Moran, Fleece Haas, Brock Ray, Tui Simpkins. Okay. So, Sammy Verrills. Now, we've got a really handy page called Forward Minutes on our page. This is something you won't find anywhere else, nowhere else other than us. And it's an extremely handy page that I'm constantly using. So, Forward Minutes for the Titans in 2025. So, Sam Verrills is generally a 4 minutes player. The average is 75. Mo, when starting front row, okay, we can put him down to 55. Tino, when starting front row, well, he mostly started lock last year, 58. What was he doing at lock? 59. Okay, so we can pretty safely put him down for 58. Firma is a 4 minutes player. I'm going to put him down to 78. And it's something I always do because players at some point in time have a HIA or a short rest or something. So very few actually average 80. Paxton, um, I'm going to have to digress here for a second. Let's have a quick look at Mr. Paxton in New South Wales Cup, Queensland Cup, sorry. So I'm going to go back over to our game log page. Has he played any NRL yet? Let's have a look. Yeah, it's all been bench stuff. Hasn't actually had an actual start yet. So I'll just have a look at his reserve grade. And in reserve grade, we can see 2025. Yeah, he's pretty much become a 80-minute back rower. I think we need to put him down as 80, effectively 78. It's far more than norm that edges play 80 minutes purely for the sake of their forward rotation, their middle rotation. Chris Randall's a big minute player. Let's come back over to our forward minutes. When he started lock before, 64. Off the bench, still nearly 50. You can see here we've got two other position designations, M-E and E-M. M-E is middle with a bit of edge. E-M is edge with a bit of middle. This is something else unique to our site. We don't just go off the list position. We reallocate players' positions based on what actually happened on the field in the game. So we can see here everywhere where we have Chris Randall, there have been decent minutes. 64, average 75, played 80 playing back row, 64 playing lock. So I think it's pretty safe to say that he's probably going to be getting at least 60 minutes. And what does all of that come to? 404. So we've got 76 minutes left between four players. Now, seniority wise, Fleece Haas is probably going to be getting a good chunk of that. So there seems to be very, very little prospect of Curtis Moran actually getting 40 plus minutes in order to generate 30 plus points. So we can pretty safely just put a total red line through that. More than likely, he's going to be in that kind of similar 20-ish minutes a game kind of a role that he's still been in. I think we need to leave Curtis Moran for now and see if a bunch of injuries happen during the season to change circumstances, we could come back and have another look at him. But his PPM isn't fantastic, 0.75. That's not a great PPM for a forward. His role is going to be bench for sure. His minutes are not going to be up in the territory we need. So I think that's just a complete hard pass for Curtis Moran. We're going to wrap that up here for this episode. Okay. In our next episode, we're going to take a look at Dylan Brown and we're going to run through how we go about evaluating a halfback or a halfback or 5'8" player. See you next time.